50 people rallied outside San Francisco's State Building today, hoping to keep Assembly Bill 2319 from becoming law. Coyote, the prostitutes union, led the charge.
The solution is like IV drug hygiene, it's recovery programs, it's needles. The solution to the crisis is education. It's not punishing people because they have a disease.
The bill to force prostitutes to be tested for AIDS is now in the state Senate.
I'm a working prostitute, and particularly regarding prostitutes' rights, it's very important that someone starts speaking up for prostitutes and saying that prostitutes have support. There's been some sort of legislative coup in which they passed mandatory testing for HIV for prostitutes in the Assembly, and we want to make sure it doesn't go through the Senate. And all the lobbyists say that it's hopeless, that we will have mandatory testing of prostitutes, and basically I feel that we have to do everything we can to stop it. Many of us have never been arrested, but we all live in fear of the police. The women who will be affected by this legislation are women of color, are poor women, are women who are survivors of rape and of incest. And these bills stipulate felony punishments for these women. And to take these women who've been raped and who've been coerced economically into prostitution and then charge them with felonies is just it's an abomination. And I think a lot of people are aware of that, but there aren't enough people speaking up. So we're here today to start speaking up about that.
Maybe they thought they were protecting you by this.
Well, they do think they're protecting us, or else they think that they equate arrest with rescue. And, you know, it's absolutely absurd, and I think we're here to re-educate them.
What are you going to do? What do you have as a positive alternative?
We want drug recovery programs for women. Of course, it's a needle program. A lot of people agree with this issue, and people understand the hypocrisy. And I think that they just don't understand that you can actually do something about it. They think it's hopeless. They think, oh, well, it's just prostitutes. There's nothing we can do. It's a tradition to oppress prostitutes. Well, we're going to start doing something about it, you know?
Okay, we'll watch. Go ahead, sir.
The bill is outrageous. The CDC tells me when I talk to them, they're freaked by these bills. They want to stop it. These are the experts on prostitution at the CDC. They're worried if California passes this bill, every state in the country is going to pass it. The only thing that infects prostitutes is IV drug use, either theirs, because they can't get legal needles, or their lover, because he won't use a condom. And that is how prostitutes get infected. They are not transmitting it. Right on. The CDC has also evaluated the undetermined risk factor, which is where men who say they had contact with prostitutes are listed. That's 33 out of more than 40,000 people who've been diagnosed with this disease. And they want to take this small number and send the hysteria of the legislators who want to have clean prostitutes to have sex with. This hysteria is making these laws get passed. It's an absolute insanity. And if this bill goes through, and if bills like this go through in this country, then democracy is dead. It is literally dead. And we can lose whatever democracy we have in this country, which is not enormous. There are a lot of people who have none, but we'll lose whatever it is if all these bills go through.
It is a farce. It is an attempt to put a Band-Aid on a serious problem in this country. We are not addressing the real issues. The RICO Act, which was originally designed at a federal level to attack organized crime, is being used against individuals around the country to stop the spread and the proliferation of adult sexuality on the screen in our homes where we want it. They're trying to interfere with our freedom and our rights.
On behalf of the Third World AIDS Advisory Task Force, I would like to add our voice to the opposition of AB 2319 and any measure which calls for mandatory testing of prostitutes, prisoners, or newborn babies. Once again, the system and our legislators, bowing to the right-wing morality, will attempt to go after the most oppressed and disenfranchised groups of all. First, for the U.S. government, it was the military. Then it was the State Department. Then they went after the Job Corps. And we protested last year in front of the federal building because we knew that jobless minority youth, especially blacks and Chicanos, would be the most affected. Then the INS went after the amnesty program and started requiring it for immigrants and undocumented workers, in particular Mexicanos and Latinos, who were caught off guard. The military, Job Corps, immigrants, undocumented workers prostitutes, the incarcerated, newborn babies. What do all these groups have in common? They have no power. And the powerful would like to control them, test them, and then what? Isolate and quarantine them? Who's going to be next? Will it be IV drug users or gay men? When and where will we draw the line?
I used to be a former hustler on Polk Street. I know what the street's like. It's tough out there, okay? Kids are out there trying to earn a buck so they can survive because of the youth programs not helping them in the city, okay? The kids out there don't need all this pressure. They've got enough pressure from running away from home, from coming from broken homes, from broken parents. When I was out there, you know, I was out there just to get money to eat, just to get, you know, money so I could have a place to stay so I wouldn't be sleeping on a park bench at night. By placing mandatory HIV testing on them, it's just another problem when they have so many problems already to deal with.
I'm not used to making angry speeches, but today I hope to be able to communicate my shock and my fear and my anger at the treatment of the most politically vulnerable people in our country, of poor people, black people, Latinos, and prostitutes. I've been a prostitute and a prostitutes' rights activist for almost 10 years. Prostitutes who will be most affected by this bill are women of color who are economically forced and coerced often into prostitution to support themselves and to support their families. Drug addiction is another symptom of poverty, and though it's treated like a crime. You know, people are always saying when it comes to prostitution, the issues, you know, it's like, oh, there's nothing we can do about it, right? The world isn't ready to recognize the rights of prostitutes. Right, you know, nobody tries. That's why we have AB 2319 here that was put forth in some sort of political coup in the legislature. Because I guess they thought nobody was going to stand up for prostitutes, right? Like nobody's going to say anything. Well, they're wrong. I think everybody here is ready to stand up for prostitutes. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that they don't pass this legislation, and we're going to show their support. And, great. Regarding testing, Margot St. James said that, you know, if they want to know if the prostitutes are positive, they should test the vice cops. We have to work to end the cruelties, and, you know, more than that, I think everybody here has to realize that, you know, we can't have like a tacit acceptance of the oppression of prostitutes. We need new strategies. I am sick of talking to politicians who privately tell me how they really understand and how they support us. And right, and then tell me, but I must understand that they can't really support us publicly because it's bad for their careers. And that their political power is more important than this issue, and I should understand, and they'll help us later, but just be quiet. We need to demand statements of support from the politicians now to deal with this. I mean, you know, we just can't accept anything less. I'm going to complain loud and in public, and I am going to get as many people to care as I can. I challenge the slimy hypocrisy of the cowards in our legislature who have paid for sex themselves, right? Or like at least their golf partners have. You know, and our legislators and their golf buddies better stop using us and then locking us up in jail so they don't have to be reminded that they cheated on their wives and that they couldn't get it for free.
And anyone during this epidemic. That is specifically what the AIDS Action Pledge says, that we are united together and that we will not abandon anyone in this epidemic. It specifically says that we will join together to oppose quarantine or mandatory testing for HIV exposure or any coercive, involuntary, or routine measures instituted against any population or individual anywhere. So I urge you to join us. We need bodies to go to Sacramento to frighten those people into realizing
that there are people out there who simply will not stand around quietly while they sell out a vulnerable population. And I'm very pleased to say that some of us may not be leaving Sacramento that day, because some of us may be sitting down in an appropriate place and refusing to leave until we're dragged away, because we're not going to sit around quietly and take this. Okay, folks, for those of you who are really anxious to get moving, we are going to march around the state building at this time. Terry is going to be leading the march for us, and why don't we get ourselves going?
Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS! Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS! Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS!
Test drugs, not people! Test drugs, not people! Test drugs, not people! California, have you heard? Passion's not a dirty word. California, have you heard? Passion's not a dirty word. You say yes, we say no. Mandatory testing's got to go. You say yes, we say no. Mandatory testing's got to go. We're getting on straight, we're here to say. Mandatory testing, no way. We're getting on straight, we're here to say. Mandatory testing, no way. No bad women, good bad law.
No bad women. No bad law. No bad women. No bad law.
You say yes, we say no. Mandatory testing's got to go.
You say yes, we say no. Mandatory testing's gotta go.
Oh boy, you're causing trouble. You're disrupting her perfect order. The placid world of perfect justice.
Perfect justice.
Willie Brown, where are you? We're out here to test you. Willie Brown, where are you? We're out here to test you. Shake, 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 shake. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Good morning, good morning. Here we are today. Here we are, and it's what? Oh, we're only about maybe 20 minutes late. You can tell I have a cold. I'm hoarse. We're like on the Bay Bridge in the middle of like a quasi-traffic jam, and we're on our way to Sacramento. About a month ago, we read in the San Francisco Examiner that Willie Brown, liberal Democrat and Speaker of the House, had orchestrated the introduction of a bill calling for mandatory HIV testing and felony charges for prostitutes. Conservatives in the House had long been pushing similar legislation. In order to secure his power as Speaker, which was being challenged at the time, Willie Brown worked with Bruce Bronson, also a Democrat, to present this almost identical piece of legislation. Bronson has also publicly stated and privately confided that he is opposed to mandatory HIV testing. But we decided to pay a visit to those who were selling us out, starting with Bruce Bronson. Seeing what kind of impression we can make. And he's the author of the bill, and he can drop it.
There is going to be a meeting nevertheless. Is that true? Of the judiciary?
Do you think it's an important issue? I mean, so you can, they're saying it's just...
Well, I'm going to go to Watson and Mark's anyway. Oh, Milton. I'll go to Milton.
To say that it would be worth it, this office isn't going to go away.
406. Room 406.
We're going to go up. Whose office are we going to?
Of course, they canceled the bill hearing today, right? Cute. And so what are we going to do? We decided to lobby and educate those senators who were potentially sympathetic.
Enamored with the idea of kind of making a crime out of the fact of, you know, carrying the HIV antibody.
Oh, good. What can we do to help him try to kill it?
He hasn't said that he's willing to kill it either.
That's one way.
What? Some way.
Harvey Milk was bushy.
Is there some way?
Where got him?
Well, I don't want to hear that. We know where Dan White got too.
That is totally insensitive. The man got his brains blown out.
And a good mayor of San Francisco who
should get pushed.
Inappropriate.
Totally.
That's right. Totally inappropriate.
Well, we're just trying to educate you. All right.
Yeah.
And about people?
Yeah, all right.
Do you know me?
I know of you.
Oh, good.
Words carefully chosen.
That's what I heard. I don't know why. I didn't vote for it, and I wouldn't vote for it either. Okay.
Against mandatory testing of prostitutes?
I'm against mandatory testing of everybody.
All right.
Mr. Bronson is a friend of yours, actually a friend. And is there a way you could call him on the telephone and to tell him to drop this bill because it's so atrocious?
Now, when people or authors of particular pieces of legislation, other members go up or down on the legislation, you don't go in and say, this is so personally offensive to me, drop it.
Not to me, how about to everyone I represent and to a lot of people who visited my office?
That's how my vote was cast. He comes from a different district, a different discipline.
See, we feel like this is
See you later, Jen.
We feel like it's an urgent situation. You know the bill targets like mostly women of color, right? That most, like 85% of the people that are jailed and sentenced.
Well, I don't know what the numbers are, but that wouldn't make any difference. That wouldn't make any difference to me. It is not a question of white or black in this regard. It's a question, it's an offensive piece of legislation, period, regardless of what color the people are.
But were you aware of that it's enforced?
No, I didn't zero in on who it's enforced against in terms of ethnic background.
But now it is about 85%.
But it doesn't increase my displeasure. I was already at zero.
Shortly thereafter, Willie Brown voted for the mandatory HIV testing of prostitutes. We've come up from San Francisco to express our alarm at AB 2319, and that mandates HIV testing of prostitutes with felony charges. And this means that if a prostitute is convicted and she is antibody positive, if she even does a hand job, she can actually be convicted of a felony. And this is inhumane. We're absolutely shocked. We're against all mandatory testing. Currently, there's legislation about mandatory testing of prisoners as well. We're here. We're going into the Senate Judiciary Committee later, and we've been visiting various senators and asking for their support and expressing our urgency. We're responsible for much less transmission of any sexually transmitted diseases than high school students or college students. Okay. We recommend anonymous testing, education for prostitutes. Right now, there are very many programs in San Francisco that educate prostitutes, that teach IV hygiene, drug recovery programs. And in Nevada, you know, there's a bill that they just passed that has mandatory testing of suspected prostitutes. I mean, anyone here could be a suspected prostitute. To dramatize our situation, we presented our recipe for Sally's scapegoat. Take one woman. Now, although the large majority of prostitutes are white, 85% of those sentenced to jail are women of color. Add one hypocritical legislator. Even the legislators know that prostitutes aren't transmitting AIDS. Apply ignorance liberally.
See them doing it in broad daylight, hoping they don't catch the latest flight. They don't get laid 'cause their butts are too tight, and so they make it a crime.